Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that every single one of us faces at multiple times in our life. It's extremely universal. And there's definitely ways that things that I've done that have helped me overcome it and work through it. So I wanted to share those with you today. Fear is universal and we all go through it. It's really not the question of if it shows up, but it's how we respond to it when it shows up. Because fear shows up in life all the time, whether it's a big meeting at work or a big presentation you have to do, or even a conversation that you are dreading to have with somebody. If you're a diver, it can be diving for the first time or diving a wreck dive for the first time. It can be anything, whatever that thing is for you that causes you fear. With diving, you're literally entering other worlds under the surface. It's vast, it's deep, it's unfamiliar. It's extremely beautiful, but it can also be very intimidating. And I feel like that's how life is a lot of the time. You know, it's beautiful, but there's certain aspects of life that you encounter over the years that can be scary, that can be uncertain, unfamiliar. So when you're in these moments, your brain kind of automatically starts scanning for danger. But that's not weakness. It's how our brains are wired. It's a survival instinct. So really, whether you're 100 feet underwater or you have to do a big presentation in front of 200 people, your brain is going to be like, what are you doing? Marissa, why triple digits? What's wrong with 60, 70, 80 feet? Why can't we stay in the 0 to 99 feet range? Why do you have to go beyond that? Or, wow, 200 people. That's a lot of people. Having some doubts about it. What if this happens? And then that's when that negative, vicious cycle starts to begin. But there is good news. There is a flip side to this. That very same environment that amplified the fear is the same exact environment that you can gain more confidence, you can grow, and you can learn from. Once you understand fear, and once you know how your mind and your body respond to it, then you can begin to overcome the fear. And you unlock things in doing that you carry with you for the rest of your life. I have my notes here, so don't judge me. So a little bit of my story. When I was younger, my dad put me in the water at a very young age. We had a cottage right on Lake Ontario. So he would take me and my brother snorkeling every single summer, and we pretty much lived in the water during the summertime. And this is where my love for the water really started. My love and passion for the ocean kind of started not your typical story of, going to the beach or going on swimming in the ocean when I was younger, because I didn't do that until I got a little older. So I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 89, and I had in elementary school Lisa Frank. Lisa Frank was big with a lot of school supplies. There was folders, pencil holders, there was pencils. Like, she had a lot of things for school supplies, notebooks. And I had one folder in particular where it was coral reef and there were 2 dolphins jumping out of the water. 1 or 2, I don't remember exactly. I saw this folder and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, is it really this colorful in the ocean? Does the ocean have these animals? Is it really this vibrant? Because you have to remember, I was used to murky lake water. So I was used to browns and dark greens and not seeing a whole lot, seeing a lot of bass, zebra mussels. That was the main things that we saw. So this absolutely blew my young little mind. And I remember thinking that if this is what it really looks like I remember looking at the detail in the coral reef and just studying it. Something clicked in my mind where I said, this is it. If this is what it's really like, sign me up for it. So that's where my love for the ocean and my passion for the ocean really started, because I knew I loved it before I was ever physically in the ocean. With snorkeling, you can pop up anytime you want. You can dive down, breathe whenever you want when you're at the surface there. You can't do that with scuba diving. You're submerged underwater and you're relying on man-made equipment to breathe from. So it kind of changes everything. And even though I love scuba diving and I love the water and I'm trained and certified in it, there are fears that crept up on me when I didn't think I would have any. Like in the beginning, I was good. I got all my certifications. It wasn't until my deep water certification, so that was from like 100 to 130 feet, where I started to have fears. And my mind just kind of set off an alarm, and something with triple digits just didn't sit well with me, and I just didn't like that. So that was a big fear for me that I had to overcome. But if you're not a diver, it can be starting a business, going back to school, moving out of state, moving out of country, something like a big job interview that you were waiting for. You know, it can really be anything that you have a fear about. Why do we fear the unknown? Well, I think because it's uncertain and we aren't familiar with it. You know, your brain loves familiarity. Our brains love predictability because that's safe. And the unknown is not safe to our brains. Our brain, you know, something that we're not familiar with, our brain is like, what are you doing? Like, let's not do that. But it's just because we're not familiar with it yet that our brain is just firing off these warnings to us. So, I mean, think of driving in your neighborhood. You can pretty much do it on autopilot because you know the area so well. But if you get on a plane to like another state and you rent a car and you have to drive around in a new city, you're not familiar with it. So your brain is like on hyper alert. You know, you're following a GPS to get around. You're just not familiar with it. So your sense of alertness is at an all-time high, right? Until you get familiar with it, because once you get familiar with it, it's not that new anymore and you're used to it. It's the same with fear. And fear is a normal part of being human. And the more that you expose yourself to your particular fear, the less power that it's going to have on you. Because you really want to remember that on the other side of fear is growth, confidence, and just becoming a stronger version of yourself. Which, I mean, I'd want that. Let's do that. That's a good idea. So now we're on to fear and its grip on us. Fear does not mean that you're weak. It's literally your brain doing exactly what it's wired to do, which is to keep you safe and to keep you alive. But the thing is, if you don't manage your own fear, then 100% guaranteed it will manage you. I've had dives where before I even got in the water, where I wasn't mentally prepared, and I got in the water anyway. Lesson learned, called my dive. But then there were other times where my mindset was great and no fear at all, and I got in the water and something triggered my fear down at depth, and I had to overcome that. And I'll leave the links in those videos below too in the notes if you wanted to see them later and get the full story. I think there's a part where it's like if you're on land, say you're in like a social setting and you walk into a room where you don't know anybody, you can kind of get that anxiety and that fear start up in you. Maybe not everybody, you know, it depends on your personality too. But for a lot of us, if you don't know anyone in that room, it can feel kind of intimidating. You have the option to run away from that and go home and curl up in your bed. I mean, it's not always a good idea to do that because you do want to work on your fears and overcome them. But you have the option to do that. But down at depth in scuba diving, you don't have that option to just bolt for the surface because then you're putting yourself high at risk for decompression sickness, which is a whole other issue, and you don't want that. That can be fatal depending on the severity of it. So you really don't want that. So what do you do in this case if you can't exactly leave the situation? Because even in everyday life, there's certain situations that you're in where there's no easy out. You have to deal with it. You have no other choice. There are times where your brain, as wonderful as our brains are, will play tricks on us. Kind of like our perception of danger isn't always accurate. And I've read articles on this specifically too with scuba diving. It's something called cognitive distortion. And it sounds really fancy, but it's really just your brain sometimes making things feel scarier or worse than they actually are. Kind of like your brain is running a worst case scenario in your head. Some examples would be, in everyday life too, that person didn't text me back. They got to be mad at me. They must be mad at me, when it's not really the case at all. Or with diving, it could be like a very small equipment issue that needs to be adjusted, but for some reason your mind will make it worse than it actually is and put you in panic mode or the early stages of panic mode. Just an example, I didn't go into panic mode, but normally I will clip my SPG. I'll put it through the strap. This is Reba. This is my Reba kitty. Making your YouTube debut, you cutie. She's my little fur ball. I love her. Oh, she's so cute. Hopefully she doesn't like lick her butt or anything on camera. That would be gross. Don't do that, okay? Okay, love you. All right, where was I? So my SPG, I'll feed it through my strap on my BC, and I have a clip here that I'll hook it up to so it's right here and it's not hanging. And I forgot to do that one dive. And divers know that trying to fiddle with equipment underwater is not the easiest, because especially when it's clipped up here and I had my regulator in my mouth, obviously, and looking down, I couldn't tell what I was doing. So, I mean, that's just an example of how someone can possibly freak out over something very minor. Another example would be seeing a shadow underwater and automatically thinking that it's a shark when it's really just your buddy's fin. Or another example is that you bombed a meeting at work and just having those negative thoughts of you're never going to be good at this, and you put yourself down. Were you just licking your butt? I can't. I hope she wasn't. But with cognitive distortion, it's really where your emotions can begin to override your situational awareness. And when this happens, the result is your logical thinking is taken away because you're now in borderline panic mode and you're not thinking clearly anymore. Now, I really want to make it a point here that yes, there is real danger, and there's real danger with scuba diving, but I'm talking about the situations particularly where our brain will instantly switch to that borderline panic mode when it doesn't need to be, when it's just something very subtle. Those are the situations I'm talking about in this video. So why does this matter underwater? Well, scuba diving requires calm thinking and controlled reactions. If you let cognitive distortion take over, that can lead to panic, and panic is what puts you really at risk than the original threat. Again, depending on the situation. But I know from personal experience, both underwater and on land, how panic can take over. And it really can take over your entire mind and your entire body. It completely overrides your thought process, which can be very scary, especially underwater. So the big question is, what can we do about it? The good news is that fear is not the enemy. You know, it's wired in our mind to keep us safe. I don't want to make it out that fear is this bad thing, but it is a good idea to learn how to manage it before it takes over. So the key is to catch your thoughts before they turn into panic. So what you want to do is you stop, you take a breath, and check back into what's actually happening and ground yourself in reality. Now, I'm not a medical professional. I want to share with you what works for me and what has helped me. But anything regarding your health and your mental wellness, go see a medical professional, please. It is not me at all. So this first part is for divers only, but the next 5 things are going to be for everybody. For divers, the importance of getting trained properly through a credible dive shop and a reputable instructor is extremely important, and it really is the foundation for safe diving. You want to make sure you're trained by somebody who takes both safety and diving seriously, and somebody who doesn't stray away from what's important. Now, everything else that I say will pertain to everybody. The first thing you want to do is acknowledge the fear. You want to acknowledge it, you want to own the fear. Because once you own and acknowledge the fear, it's going to take away some of its power and it'll make it more manageable to overcome. So instead of saying, I feel anxious, you want to ask yourself why, and you want to be completely honest with yourself to find out why you feel anxious. It might be, I'm nervous of messing this meeting up, or I'm nervous of moving to a new state because what if I fail? Or I'm nervous about an equipment failure, or I'm nervous about diving this deep. The second thing you want to do is visualize. I said this in a previous video as well. I don't think this is done enough. and I don't think this is talked about enough. It's very important to do this. You want to visualize whatever it is you're doing goes smoothly. So if it's a dive, you want to visualize your dive going smoothly, and you want to picture it from beginning to end vividly. If it's a big meeting, you want to visualize the meeting going well. If it's a difficult conversation with somebody, or a first date, if you haven't dated in years and now you're trying to date more, you want to visualize it all going well. Now, here's why it works. Your brain doesn't know what's being vividly imagined versus what's actually happening. So it's kind of like you're training your nervous system in advance to stay calm. In doing this, it's going to make you more prepared if something were to go wrong. Good example for myself, just to kind of make more sense, is when I went skydiving. I was really nervous, jumping out of a plane, free falling 120 miles per hour. Isn't exactly everyone's idea of fun. I know I am wired a little differently though, but I was really nervous, as I feel like one should be really nervous for that. And I just remember thinking, sitting on the picnic table there that they had there, waiting for the plane to show up. I didn't want to have a bad experience, but I didn't know how to channel my nerves and adrenaline into something positive. So what I did was sit there and visualize having a good time, like feeling the joy and feeling the freedom with it, and feeling very proud of myself for doing that. And I pictured I pictured the free fall and just enjoying myself completely. And what I found to happen was, by the time the plane got there and I went up in the air with everyone that I was with, I found that those nerves and that adrenaline turned into something else, and it was me being completely present with that experience. I was open to it, and I fully embraced that experience. And I realized, nothing external really will help you calm down. Maybe music. Music is very powerful, but as far as doing your inner work, you calm yourself down and you put yourself in different states. It comes from within. So if you want to change something, you have to do it from within. And the third thing you're going to want to do is breathe, because breathing is your anchor and it's your greatest tool. Slow and steady breathing is going to calm your nervous system, and it clears your mind. The calmer the seas, the more you can see. So in other words, if you're looking out at the ocean and there's a storm going on and it's windy and there's rain and the waves are huge, you can't see anything beyond the waves. All you see is chaos. But when you think of that being your mind, and when you calm yourself down and when you start breathing and everything, the storm settles, then you can see beyond the water. You can see the solutions, and you can see how you're going to resolve the problem that you're in. So the more calm you are, the more you can think of solutions to resolve the problem. If there's chaos and there's a storm going on, you're not going to be able to see anything. The fourth thing you want to do is talk to yourself. I know I laugh when I say this, but I literally do this on every single dive. Even if I see something cool, I'm like, oh girl, that is so awesome. I will talk to myself. Yeah, she looks happy. But I will, especially when I'm nervous, I will coach myself in my head when I'm diving or doing anything that I'm afraid of. I'll say, I'm trained for this. My body's alert and it's paying attention. I'm prepared for this. And of course, this does not mean to ignore real danger. Awareness is extremely important here. But by reframing that initial fear response, you can stay calm, assess the situation clearly, and then you can stop panic before it snowballs. And the fifth thing you're going to do is expose yourself to that fear over and over again. Overcoming fear doesn't come with thinking, it comes with doing. So you start small, you do the thing that you're afraid of or you have fears about, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. The only way you will overcome any fear in your life is by repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again. because that repetition will rewire your brain's response to that particular fear. So each time you do the thing, you learn, you adjust, and then you do it again. And it's like a cycle. You learn, you adjust, you do it again, and you repeat it over and over again. And eventually, after the first few times, your brain will be like, I can handle this. And it gets easier and easier as you go. For me, one day, I wanted to do technical diving. Technical diving is going deeper than 130 feet. My deepest dive is only 116 feet right now. I know for a fact that I'm not ready to do technical diving because I want to be at 130 feet frequently and be extremely comfortable and have that itch to go deeper. And I'm not there yet. So one day, it'll happen one day. But fear won't disappear just because you want it to. It's going to shift through experience and exposure. It can be public speaking. It can be career goals. It can be dating. One of the most incredible feelings about overcoming fear is what comes after you overcome it. You feel way more alive. You feel completely free. You have more confidence. You're growing as a human because you're exposing yourself to different aspects and experiences in life. And those beliefs, they go with you everywhere in your life. When you face your fear, you realize, I can stay calm. I can handle the unfamiliar and the uncertainty. I can trust myself in the choices that I make. You might even have these thoughts where yeah, it's unfamiliar, but that's what makes it exciting. And it drives you to push yourself even more and overcome more of your fears. Because when you're doing something that you're not familiar with, you are growing into a version of you that's stronger than it was before. You do the thing and you're stronger. And then you build from that, and then you do something else and you're stronger, and then that becomes you. And then you do something else and that becomes you. It's like this beautiful, never-ending cycle of growth. I love it. But thank you so much for being here. I hope that this video helped you guys in some way. If it resonated with you at all, please leave a comment below. Are there fears that you're working through right now? And if you overcame fears, what were they? I'd love to hear from you guys. Take care.